Great, I'm going to start now. So we're here to talk about investing in space, which feels almost like something out of science fiction, because for so long space was something which used to preserve of governments, and then you had private industry which worked as contractors. But what we're really seeing now is nothing new. We're seeing exactly what we've seen on Earth in the sense of governments go first and then private industry follows. So we're going to be discussing the opportunities in the space sector, particularly for investment and here in the UK, because it is a hugely exciting industry which is not only going to transform humanity and transform our place in the cosmos and enable us to edge outward into the solar system, but it's one which brings a lot of economic opportunities and a lot of opportunities to make fortunes as well as lose fortunes. So joining me today is Stuart Martin, who's the CEO of the satellite applications Catapult, and Alan Thomas. Oh, we've got the correct name for you now, Alan Thomas, who is Head of Government Affairs for Skyrora. So, Stuart, can I just start with you, and if you can set the scene in the UK. It's been an incredible 50 years. Some could say we haven't quite yet got that science fiction future we wanted, but it's a hugely exciting time right now for space exploration, particularly here in the UK.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think that's absolutely right. I think space is one of those areas that we are really good at in the UK, and I think it's something that's not well understood. I was looking at some of the reports of investments in the sector over the last 10 years. There's been about $230 billion invested around the world in space sector organizations over the last 10 years. The largest two countries, and about 77% of that has been in the US and China, but the UK is third. Over that time, there's about 11 billion has been invested in UK companies, and that's ahead of Singapore, India, and all our other European partners. So it is something where we are, batting above our weight. And there's good reasons for that. I think we do have a very strong technology base. I think we've got a very strong entrepreneurial culture here in the UK, which you guys all know about. And I think for the last 10 years, I think we've been looking at the space sector in a slightly different way to the rest of the world. We've been very much focusing on how we use space technology to deliver value here on the ground, and how we can use it to support sectors right across the economy, from agriculture to finance to mining. And right now I think we're in a really exciting time where this year I think about $10 billion has already gone into what I would describe as the most risky part of the sector, and that's the space infrastructure part. And I think it's the most risky part because I think that's the part where the market is least well developed. And the reason why people are making those investments is they can see the opportunity ahead and what's happening around the world, for the rest of this century. So we know that this century is going to be the century of autonomy. It's going to be the century of driverless cars, robotic ships, autonomous vehicles, autonomous drones, and none of that is going to be possible without the sort of truly ubiquitous connectivity and navigation and positioning and timing services that really only space technology can deliver. And that's what the demand from the new infrastructure is going to come from. And we also know that this is going to be the century where hopefully we start to develop solutions and mitigations for climate change. Really, it's only the space technology that gives you those global insights and gives you the ability to scale solutions all around the world that we're going to need if we're going to really start to deliver these solutions at scale. So, we already know how space delivers or helps us understand climate change. We're now starting to grips with how space technology is actually going to help us find the solutions too. So I think there's some really exciting opportunity here, and UK really does lead the way.
And how unique is what the satellite applications Catapult is doing? You're kind of like this connecting organisation, for want of a better word, to showcase the great successes in the UK space industry.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So what we try and do, for those of you who aren't familiar with Catapults, we're a sort of network of sectors who work in a network of centres who work in a number of emerging technology sectors. Obviously, we're focusing on the space sector, and what we try and do is find ways of de-risking innovation for UK businesses. So we're looking to see, where the market opportunity can be enhanced, where there are risks around getting your product to market, where there are risks around regulatory boundaries or maybe skills, access to skills, or maybe the supply chain that you need isn't as developed as you want. So we try and find those gaps and fill those gaps so that UK companies who are looking to invest in innovation have a better success of getting that return on their investment. So we've been doing that for 8 years now, and I think what we have seen is, as I said, a real rapid growth in UK companies, and I think there's great opportunities there for future investment.
And Alan, talking about great UK companies and the work of Skyrora, can you just outline for everyone watching this what Skyrora does, and also your role in terms of government affairs and this increasing government investment and confidence we're seeing in the space industry, and what that could mean for investors?
Thank you. Yeah, I think, so yes, I'm Alan Thompson, I'm from Skyrora. We're a small launch vehicle manufacturer. That means we are building rockets, and we are aiming to launch those rockets from the UK, starting the regular launch market that has been heralded and much expected, and we're looking to do that starting from the end of next year. So we've developed our own design of launch vehicle, of the rocket, engines and the constituent parts, and we are going hell for leather right now to manage to deliver that rocket on time to be able to launch at the end of next year. I think we are considered as a disruptive company. I'm not sure we quite live up to what you were suggesting there of being a national brand for launch yet. I think that's our aspiration, and we need to be able to deliver that and look forward to that opportunity.
I think the compliment. You're one of the...
I don't think we're quite there yet, but yeah, I think there's still a huge awareness factor about what space is, and to some of Stuart's comments earlier on, I think broadly in the United Kingdom, and in fact you mentioned it as well, we're not aware of the fact that the launch actually happened in the UK 50 years ago yesterday. The first launch of the Black Arrow rocket with a UK manufactured satellite, Prospero, that's still up there. So actually we have a great legacy, we have a great heritage to live up to. Skyrora is looking to re-kickstart that British heritage, particularly focused on launch, utilizing some of the technologies pioneered by the Brits 50 years ago, and actually putting that into the current context, which has implications for actually allowing us to take steps forward in environmental concept around launch, the idea of an environmental launch, reducing CO2 footprint, all this sort of stuff. Actually, there are a whole load of interesting things, but I think the interesting thing, mostly from my point of view at the moment, and the market that's evolving, we're seen as a disruptor. We're seen as, actually, the number of questions I've asked by investors so many times, how do you invest into a launch company? What do you need to do? Yes, it's a very complex landscape. We are not aware as a society of the total significance of the satellites that are being manufactured in the UK and what that represents to the logistics service providers in terms of a demand. We are not necessarily aware, yes, we've got a huge burgeoning space data sector, manipulation, interpretation, and then selling the product abroad, which is, again, the next level of the demand creator for the satellite manufacturers. But what we're not confident in being able to articulate is how the demand from the space data falls into the satellite manufacturer, and then the satellite manufacturer into the actual number of units required to get in to be launched, and then who's going to be launching that. We're still plugging that value gap, which is something when we get to launch. There is enormous net onward uplift from being able to plug that value gap in that value chain that we've been taken for granted on the whole satellite manufacturers up until hopefully next year. They've been sending their satellites to the US. The really interesting thing about the 50th anniversary is when UK was launching 50 years ago, the US there was an open offer to UK satellite manufacturers to launch free of charge. As soon as we stopped our launch program in 1971, of course, the US put the prices up. We are hoping that we're going to force the US to try and compete again and free of charge for our satellite manufacturers, because then we can see, again, a growth of the satellite manufacturers in the UK. That's something we're looking on in any case, because we believe that regular launch from the UK will actually give more people inspiration, more opportunity to go into launch and to feel deliverables in a shorter space of time. The biggest challenge that we're focused on in terms of the logistics service provider is usually it's about a 2-year time backlog of satellites that need to be launched into space. So we believe there's a very compelling case out there. Part of the challenges is actually having the confidence in being able to deliver that case. And part of the evolving situation that we're in at the moment is the mix of government becoming to be able to articulate more and more what that case study is, what that opportunity is in items of satellites being delivered. One of the common, I think, concepts about specifically the space industry worldwide, as we've heard already, is that there's a huge government presence, and that is what very prevalent in the US. I'm sure you're more aware than perhaps we are. In the UK, the UK model is very much to try and push the commercial market to cover for it. So for that point of view, you could say there was a bigger role for investors, but part of the challenge that we're faced with in the launch industry in particular is that government didn't know how to engage with the launch industry. Broadly, the launch industry we have at the moment is new companies, we're disruptors, we're not primes. We're not the Lockheed Martins who have the golden standard, we're still doing this for the first time. And the challenge is, how can you get someone to believe in you to make that happen? Where's the confidence? So yes, the government's beginning to articulate that level of confidence that we require to make it happen. But yes, witnessed into, and we've had direct conversations with government about the fact that launch was not really perceived as a strategic sector. It's now made it into the new National Space Strategy, which was published just relatively recently. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. And yes, now it's focused into the comprehensive spending review, the budget that was announced on Wednesday this week, whereas there is a specific line written by the Treasury, which is very encouraging for us. The HM Treasury is ready to tie itself down to a specific delivery of a UK-manufactured satellite on a UK-manufactured launch vehicle from UK soil by the end of 2022. For us, that's the confidence that we've been lacking. That's where we see the current paradigm change, the kick-on to new opportunities, and that's, really quite exciting. So.
And I think it's important to clarify as well how successful the UK has been in the space industry, because often it's easy to get sidetracked by human missions and what NASA's doing and what Russia's doing. But actually, in terms of manufacturing of small satellites, correct in saying the UK is a world leader with that. And this potential to have launches within the UK and manufacturing satellites within the UK, and these small satellites mean you can get a lower cost payload to space, more people can get ideas to space. So you will have the potential by the end of next year to manufacture satellites in the UK and then launch them from the UK, which just completely changes the entire space ecosystem that we have here, which opens up so much opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some really iconic, what we now call new space companies. I think the companies that have changed the paradigm of space from being, big government-funded, predominantly defense or scientific satellites to something that, any country can, or even companies can aspire to own and become affordable for more commercial purposes. And so we've got Surrey Satellites. They were really the very first new space company in many ways. They were the pioneers of small satellites, sort of fridge-sized satellites. And now, we've got the likes of Clyde Space. What I hear is that over the last 12 months, more satellites were built in Glasgow than any other city in the world. So it's it genuinely is a centre of global significance for this new technology that's going to be driving the future of the space economy. And one thing I want to just sort of follow up on what Alan was saying. I think that when we think about space launch, I think we all have in our mind those great big Apollo rockets of the past that were there to launch these huge satellites, or even manned missions from that were all government funded and happened once or twice a year. I think you used the key word here, logistics. Now, for this new economy that's evolving, we need a completely different type of launch service, which is a key part of the logistics system that's going to enable us to support all that infrastructure that's going up into space. It's going to enable us to do the debris removal. It's going to enable us to do all the servicing of satellites that are up there when they run out of fuel, and it's going to enable us to do, well, who knows what, frankly. I think we're still at the very early stages of determining how we make best use of this capability now that we're developing it.